Sure. So, hi everybody. We hope you are having fun, and we hope this is going to be a good evening for you, a good start of the week. So it's Roland and Alexi. We're here, and we've been developing Octopologies for quite some time, and we are attending different meetups. And today it's an experiment because it's hybrid, and I don't know if hybrid is a good idea or not, but you'll tell us after we finish, please. Okay?
Okay, but we need to say that only the first part is hybrid. We will be with you for about half an hour, so then it's just local. Maybe you can share your screen, Alexei.
Yeah. So we will show some basic core ideas, not the basic, but essential ideas of org topologies today with you. And if the time allows, we will try to make a cohesive story out of these pictures. So first two things, we are expecting you to know where to download the Octopologies primer from our website. It's a free PDF, and we know you have printouts at your tables, or will they be given out later?
I think they only printed out the maps, not the full primer.
Yeah, the maps. So you have the maps at the table. Well, if you need some more copies of that, yeah, you can go to the website and download them, and then basically sketch your org topology. We are also going live with a mirror, a template in a Mirrorverse. It will be live somewhere in the middle of this week, which can be also used to basically model your organization. Another thing we would like to invite you to do is to go and join our Slack community. If you go to our website, to the community menu, you will be able to join our Slack, and Gaia, Steiner, Storm, we all are there talking about octopologies.
So we're kind of assuming that you've been looking at the map already before. So you know that we have these archetypes, and we organize these archetypes in order of adaptivity. And if you scroll a little bit to the right, then in the top right corner, there's the most adaptive archetype, which is, for instance, what we love to refer to as the startup company, where everybody collaborates together. They all share the same purpose, and they know why they're there, and everybody does a little bit of everything. Although maybe some people have a certain expertise, they're not locked into that expertise. That's impossible if they would do that, because we need to pivot every once in a while. We need to do experiments and change direction. And if people would be locked into their own sphere or their own narrow specialization, then that changing of direction would be difficult. So
yeah, so as Roland is explaining on this map, which is a simple 4x4 map, one axis is completeness of skills, and the other axis, the vertical one, is the scope of work. And this, like idealistic startup that we're looking at is a group of team. It's a group of people, a team, which actually got together because they share some big purpose, and they need each other, to accomplish that. So they are learning, which will be improving on the horizontal axis, and they also owning the whole thing. They have an end-to-end responsibility of the end of the result, because, well, they know what happens if they don't deliver anything. And then we would like to give you today a bit of understanding of other archetypes, because typically your organization and your team, your work units are somewhere, in between the lowest and this highest one. So what typically happens in a 5-year, journey of a startup, it grows into a larger, more complex, more rigid organization. And then where do you put this organization? Well, somewhere at the opposite side of the map. So we can call it a scale up, where it doesn't have to be like this, but a lot of companies grow to form functional groups, right? Maybe a front-end group, back-end group, a QA group, etc. And that's not good or bad. That's how the things are. But we all understand, if you need to help this company to adapt to a new strategy, well, you will need to spend a lot of time replanning your projects, and maybe wait till the next budgeting cycle, which happens in January, because it's only in January customers change their minds, right?
Yeah,
not really. So this is the lowest archetype, and typically you'll find yourself somewhere in between.
And so we were a little startup, and now we've been growing, and we have these groups of people sitting together, and we call that scaling. Okay, we scale up, we add more people. So if this is scaling, growing from small to big, then moving upward to become more adaptive again, then that probably is descaling. Okay, because we scaled already, we went big, and now we need to reorganize and consolidate to have these characteristics of the startup again.
Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of proposition there out on the market, different frameworks, different approaches that can help you either to scale or to descale. And today we will discuss a bit more in details what scaling is and give you two different definitions of two different kinds of scaling. So bear with us. And of course, going up, as Roland said, can be called descaling. And if you're familiar with LAS, large scale Scrum, they even say then they're not a scaling framework or scaling method. They're actually helping organization to descale. Because what we know is when you're going up, you typically minimize a number of different special functions, special groups, and you kind of merge again together to this unit that we're going to discuss later on.
Yeah, so we're not trying to create confusion. We're just trying to be specific in what scaling really is and the opposite of that. Maybe that's a concept you were not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so typically now what you can do with this map, if you understand all the boxes, and now you probably do not understand all the boxes, this is fine, but in general, what you'll be able to do if you know that, well, you'll be able to do a wonderful thing. You'll be able to map your current position on the map. Maybe the majority of the teams are in this box, and then some other teams also there, and then we have some analysts and UX people also in those boxes. And now, because you understand where you are, and this language can be very precise, you can say we have 5 teams in A1 and 3 teams in A2. And then once you know where you are, well, using this map, you can discuss where you want to be. And we find this language actually speaks much more than the language of saying, hey, we're doing safe, or we are in a less adoption, because, well, what does that mean? Or even worse, we're doing agile, or, like really doesn't communicate your intentions. So we actually have developed this map not to share with the world, like with you now. We develop it to actually work with our clients and help them have a better, deeper discussions what they mean by change or agile transformation. So, okay, you would like to go from here to here. Okay, we can discuss this, and maybe I can help you as a coach. Maybe not.
And the beauty of having this language and this map is not just that we can map our team or our department, but we can actually map much more. We could think about, oh, wait a minute, if there's so much confusion about the different kinds of implementations of SAFe, maybe we can also try to use this map to determine where SAFe lives, or some other framework, team topologies, or we can go really broad on mapping anything. If just name it, and we'll try to map it based on.
And that's what we did with Roland. We talked to many people, and we studied power teams. We studied fast, agile. We studied less. Looked at Spotify, team topologies, other things, and we were trying to study them from the viewpoint of how adaptive those methods are. But the point is not that we can now go and map anything in the world. The goal is to have you, within your companies, have a clear understanding of where you are. And as we discussed before, likely it will not be just one box. It will be an ecosystem, as we say, of different boxes interfering and, relating to each other. And then you can have a better discussion, hopefully, in your company, knowing from where you go to where you go. And we like to quote this guy, the Dr. Jay Cotter, who says the search results are clear, solutions might come from within the organizations. Basically, he is claiming that a lot of org change, it doesn't necessarily need to be agile. A lot of org changes fail, because those solutions did not emerge from within the organization. Somebody brought a consultant with a fat slide deck, or somebody went to a training and said on Monday, hey, we need to do this. And our mission behind Org Topologies with Roland is to help companies actually own the change. And of course, we're not naive. we're not assuming this map or this tool will change the world drastically, but we are trying to give a bit more ownership and a bit more meaningful discussions to what is this change that we are doing actually. All right. How's the sound? Can you guys still manage us?
I
You
see
good?
hands going up. We're
Okay.
doing all right. Yep.
All right, so let's go a bit deeper. So we are developing this video course, and there's a module called Dependencies and Ecosystem. And in the next 15 minutes, we'd like to give a little bit you more ideas about what does this dependency mean, and what do we mean, how to actually upgrade those dependencies in your organization. So we start somewhere very easy and simple, right? Those low-level archetypes, as we call them, the left bottom part of the map, you can call it the land of managing reciprocal dependencies. Okay, and now we go a little bit scientific. So because reciprocal, it has a very specific meaning. There are in theory three types of dependencies, and one of them is reciprocal. That's essentially the hardest dependency you can have in a process. That's when two people or two units, they depend on each other. Like if I am a developer and Roland is a tester, I need Roland to test my features or my change, but Roland needs me to actually bug fix it later on. And typically
we're almost inseparable, basically.
we are almost inseparable, and we need each other. And then maybe a different the times it's either me bottlenecking the process or him, but we are a part of a totality. And if you split us in different rooms, different groups, it's not gonna make things better. So when people say dependencies or interdependence, they usually mean these kind of things. But just to be clear, there are two other dependencies.
Yeah, but they're out of scope for this session. Okay, we'll just focus on the reciprocal ones. Yeah.
And why this a key dependency to manage? Well, because none of us can be responsible for the entire thing, right? You cannot make a developer responsible for quality, if he needs a tester, and vice versa. Yesterday I was playing with Lego, with a Lego I'm playing tomorrow with a big group, with a puzzle. I was assembling a puzzle with my small one, and she said, "Oh, I'm done with my part of a puzzle." I'm like, "No, it doesn't work like this. Is it the whole puzzle is done, or you still and me we still have a work to do?" Right? So basically, we all understand this move. This green line is typically means creating those agile teams where we contain those reciprocal dependencies. Well, if I need you and you need me on daily basis, well, if you put us in one team and make us both be responsible for the whole thing, for the puzzle being assembled, then probably we as human beings will be able to manage that.
Yeah, and maybe people go like, yeah, duh, that's logic. You know how many years it took us to find out that actually our whole organization was set up in the wrong way, with reciprocal dependencies being split across departments? And actually it still is in many companies. So this is not a no-brainer. This is key to improving your teams.
And for many companies, for many of you on the agile transformation journey, for most all of my clients, customers, me working in different companies as a Scrum Master, this has been this major move of trying to contain those reciprocal dependencies to make sure people together as a unit can do things. It's actually going from this individualistic work, which requires a manager to hand off things, to people working simultaneously on the things. Right. And now, well, dependencies are still there. I need Roland needs me, but we can sit together and we can synchronously, meaning at the same time, focus on this feature, on this quality issue, and address it without.
That's vital.
Yeah.
You just said the word, I'm going to repeat it. Synchronously, at the same time. We share the same goal in the same amount of time, okay, and within the same time box, which means we are not disturbing each other. We are not interfering with each other's work, but we need each other to solve the pieces of the puzzle before a certain end date, let's say within a sprint.
And in Scrum, this in the same time will be maybe in the same sprint, right, in lean terms at the same time would be, focusing on a single piece flow. In Kanban world, maybe focusing on this WIP limit. But all those ideas are trying to, put us together with Roland at the same table. So we simultaneously, as much as possible, put our skills at the table and actually avoid this dependency. And now, if you look at these guys working together, is there a dependency between them? They still need each other.
Yeah.
But like, you might have a dog at home. You don't say, I have dependency on you to manage this dog, right? We typically say as human beings, we have a dog, right? So
And
these people have this work that they need to share. So the more we synchronize the dependencies, the more we go from, oh, I'm blocked, I'm dependent on you, it's bad, to, hey, we just have this shared work together.
yeah, it's shared work, and we want to collaborate together instead of bugging each other. And also, you won't need a manager, overarching manager, to manage those dependencies, because hey, for us it doesn't feel like a dependency anymore. It's like it's collaboration, it's just work. So we will do this by ourselves, by collaborating.
Yeah. And just to change the gears a little bit here, we all know that you know this, right? The point of this meetup is not to teach you basic agile stuff, but to teach you some problems we have and also how you can address them with tool like org topologies. And you know what happened? We created all these teams, right? I've been part of a many agile transformation, being a scrum master. My goal for many years was to create these autonomous teams, and the teams will say now, yes, finally we're autonomous. If before I had to wait for everybody, now we have no dependencies. Now we can just, go really fast. And like this guy in the car, he says, yeah, finally I'm independent. I can go anywhere. From a team perspective, it's like this. But if you look at the company from a higher perspective, well, those autonomous independent teams, they are not really autonomous that much, or maybe they have an impression that they are. But in fact, from a broader point of view of a value, from a customer point of view, from a business stakeholder who wants them to all optimize retention of customers, or go to this new market and explore this new opportunity, each of these teams still need to do something. So yes, we improved going from these bad reciprocal dependencies to putting those skills in a single team, but still it's not, we believe it's not enough. Okay, teams are not yet autonomous. And well, I run a workshop for one of my clients the other day, and they say, hey, we have this 15 autonomous teams, and every team owns their own product. I'm like, oh, cool, nice. So can you guys draw lines between the teams? And the lines will mean dependencies. And they did it. And then I said, well, can you color the lines red, meaning like blocking dependencies? You're really waiting for somebody. And some lines here actually red. So, and finally, I met with somebody from this company for coffee another day, and she was still calling her teams autonomous teams.
It's strange.
And I'm like, yeah. And well, nothing better describes this picture, this situation, than this picture, right? You need all of this above for these agile autonomous teams to work. Mm-hmm. We're not actually bashing SAFe or any framework, but we're just trying to highlight the problem we have. Okay.
It would be interesting to think about why do they still call it autonomous? Right? I don't have the answer, but I'm just wondering if they know they have all these dependencies, they still call them autonomous.
Well, they spent this many years trying to create these autonomous teams, and that's how they all believe they were. I don't know. It's actually funny when you actually look at this alliance and say, like, yeah, none of his team is actually independent and autonomous.
No.
So question, right? A thought experiment. What will happen if we add twice many teams to this company? And by the way, this is just 10% of those companies in that large company. So if we add twice as many teams, will we go twice faster? Probably no. But what we can tell you, probably there will be twice as many lines.
Yeah, so it will go slower.
Or more, right? So actually, there will be more dependencies. And this is what we call horizontal scaling, right? So if you're focusing on creating these autonomous teams, and well, they can be autonomous to some extent, right? Maybe Roland, they own a microservice, and in this microservice, they can do anything they want, and they can deploy it any given amount of time. So from this perspective, they are actually autonomous. But well, it still doesn't really address maybe the problem of a stakeholder. So this horizontal scaling, it is one issue actually why we've created org topologies, because maybe there's something else needs to happening. And we've realized once we actually discovered this map 4x4, we realized, oh, a lot of companies are actually in this 8 low-level archetypes. They focus too much on the teams, and we even crafted a name for it. We call it the first wave of the Agile revolution. We don't mean Agile is dead and we need to make something new like business agility. No, we just believe, well, we need to take these lessons and apply them to the next level, because this was pretty right move to create those agile teams and see how they work. And now we probably need to just upgrade them. And these high level archetypes up there, for many companies, it is an enchanted territory. Oh, how do I make this many teams work together? So just to wrap up this little part, we were solving the problems of individualistic functional work, and then we created these agile teams. And every time we have a problem and we come up with a solution, well, the new solution just creates new problems, as we say with Roland.
But hopefully better problems.
Yeah, today's solutions create tomorrow's problems. And well, we can just hope these are better problems. So what do we need to do? Well, maybe we just need to undo the previous solution and say, hey, this idea of teams was wrong. But I don't think it was wrong. These teams actually rock and people like working in teams, but we probably need to upgrade that solution somehow with this, 30 years since Agile Manifesto was signed. We've been learning about teams. Probably it's a time we actually apply this knowledge to something else. So vertical scaling. These are pictures, Roland, from your teams and your clients. What are people doing there?
Yeah, well, they are on the left corner. They're just working. They're discussing together how to solve the problems at hand. And the upper right corner, it's a product owner with a product backlog, and they're just beginning a product backlog refinement session with all teams available. And in the left bottom corner, this is just one table of many, many tables where the refinement was going on. So that means that, like 50 people, 60 people together in a room, they all put their teeth into product backlog items and try to split them and try to estimate them, not as teams, right, but as mixed group of people, in order to get learning across all those teams of those subjects. They need to understand the items and how they're going to tackle them. And it's just various pictures of where you see the vibe and the buzz going on in such a department. I think that's the main message of images like these, when you make people collaborate together on a bigger chunk of the product.
Right. And vertical scaling is just a catchy phrase we need to put on the slide to, catch people's attention. Essentially, it's just working with across teams, but also without too many managers, without creating too many extra roles, actually letting people work on broader things. And essentially, from the org topologies point of view, you can call it, if you want, the second wave of Agile. Essentially, it's creating this broader open spaces for collaboration, removing those fences and walls around specialization. It's funny to say, right? But if we would map one autonomous agile team that is responsible, say, for some feature. Our favorite example is a search team working on the search functionality. They have a search backlog and a search for a corner. We would typically map this team either here or there, depending how much definition of done they possess. If they don't need anybody else and they can just put new search features and ideas into production, they will be an A3 team. But if you have dozens of teams like this, one team for iOS, one team for search on the website, one team for profile, one team for whatever your feature is. Well, those teams actually not able to see the bigger picture. They're not able to take a responsibility for the entire puzzle to get solved. And essentially, without wanting that, we have created these fences and walls around the teams. It's unlikely. It's actually quite likely. It's not unlikely to hear team saying, yes, we probably need to help you, but currently we are busy doing that and that from our roadmap. Please go and talk to our product owner. And the product owner will say, no, I'm busy with my roadmap. Let's go to this chief product owner so that he solves this escalation.
Yeah, so these fences that you're talking about is actually the team product owner, the team product backlog, doing a sprint per team. That's actually a fence, right? It doesn't help collaboration between teams.
Yeah, so the idea is to try to remove those fences, giving back this end-to-end accountability for the end results, giving people, the ability to solve this whole puzzle, and don't say I'm done with we're only one puzzle. Like my daughter is 5 years old, it is expected to hear it from her once. But we're all adults, so we all understand. It's funny, we all understand end-to-end responsibility. We are very much responsible. We build houses, we raise kids, we fight wars, we win wars, but somehow from 9 to 5 in the office, we need somebody else, to make us own. So the things on the left, team self-design workshop, single product backlog, multi-team refinements, marketplace for work, these are all practices which are out there, which are not a secret. We all can learn them. From our experience, it's only maybe 2 to 5% of companies actively playing with those ideas and learning these practices. A lot of companies just somewhere down there, trying to manage all these autonomous teams and dependencies between them, sadly.
Yeah, some companies really want to move up and they cannot. And other companies really don't choose to actively try to do vertical scaling. For whatever reason, there might be all kinds of constraints, regulatory or financially, or pressure from the market, why we cannot invest time in improving ourselves. This is the battle we need to find out why it is that people don't apply those practices that are out there.
And our second mission, actually, so the first one was to help people own the change, whichever that changes. Like if they did decide just to create more A3 teams, it's fine as long as they understand why they're doing that. But maybe it's just inertia, maybe they don't know any better. And our second mission is actually helping companies uncover those higher archetypes. And we did a research and try to find how people call those higher archetypes. And there's no actually a good name for that yet. Some people call them teams of teams. There's a book with this title, and so maybe it's coming from there. Some people call them tribes. Some people in LESS, for example, call them a product group. People in FAST, Agile, they call them a collective. So
tribe is a bit difficult though, because tribe might be interpreted by the Spotify model people to go
right.
Yeah.
But there are this already notion out there, like you all share, okay, there is something bigger. You can create this mega team or super team that can actually now own the whole thing. Maybe it's not the whole product yet. Maybe it's not the whole business yet, but at least some cohesive, holistic part. Maybe not all the puzzles, but at least one puzzle, or maybe if not one puzzle, at least one part of the puzzle which makes sense, right? So this will be a B level on our map. This yellow level will be a B level, and B stands for business boundaries. Essentially, we want to create these clear business boundaries, typically around a business stakeholder with a profit loss, P&L, accountability, with some clear customer segments, clear customer journeys, and then actually invite as many teams as you need to work together within this business boundary. And maybe because like in Norway, in Scandinavia, you guys prefer these flatter organizations, maybe some of you are already there or doing that. Well, at least now, hopefully, we can give you some alphabet and some terminology so you can communicate what you're doing to other companies. But from my experience, I live in Germany for 10 years. Well, a lot of companies are still stuck somewhere on a lower level, trying to juggle those dependencies, hiring new managers, new team level product owners, still not able to
It's
grasp this idea of this business boundary where teams can freely share work together.
it's so strange actually, because managing all those dependencies is a pain. It's really difficult. It's expensive, and it slows down your company enormously. And still, people keep on doing it because I don't know. That was the thing that they used to do before. Yeah, you can. And now um, actually the new challenges that we need to face are maybe much simpler in effect, but they're
Maybe not,
unknown.
but
They're
like,
unknown. So
I don't know.
that's
Yeah, like of course, like there is no magical silver bullet. Every new solution will eventually create a new problem. So if you want multiple teams to work together on biggest, something bigger than a search feature, maybe on the whole website, maybe on the whole suite of products, there will be some difficult challenges, like how they share the code base, right? And somebody will say, well, if we open up all the code base to everybody, then there will be a mess and people will break each other code. Yes, it is true. That's why you need to be clever about this move. It's not just to open up all the code from Friday to Monday, right? It's maybe you open up some parts of the code base, which is in a better shape, and then some pieces of code you assign some mentors, and maybe you accept only pull requests for the time being. But once teams learn how to work with this part of the code, maybe then you give some full permission to some of the teams. So the world is not black and white. You can slowly go into these high level archetypes.
Yes, I think that's vital. It takes time. Some people sometimes, because we present stuff like you should do this, they go like, oh, so on Monday I have to start with this. No, take it slow. These changes to sustain need to be systemic. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be taken into consideration, not just opening repositories, but also guiding people to go there, making them understand things, making sure management and all that is on board with this. It's a complex ecosystem of elements that collaborate together. So we need to really be slow thinking and gradually moving towards new places and introducing them in
Yeah,
a clever
another
way.
example, like maybe the last one for today, which you will hear from people around you when you're going to pitch these ideas, they say something like a cognitive load, meaning, the heads of developers and everybody will just explode. Like now this team barely owns the search feature. Well, how can you imagine this team now working across the entire website? Well, I mean, you can try to, prevent people's heads from exploding and then create these walls and mini backlogs, mini projects, and then manage dependencies. This is one way of doing things. And I mean, it works. A lot of companies do it like this. Another approach would be to ask, okay, what would be the first thing the heads of developers will be exploring? Or maybe because every repository has different connotation of how we build things. Okay, then we need to actually descale, minimize complexity to make sure, how we build things becomes more and more standardized, and then the heads of developers would not exploding that fast because there's less complexity. So
Exactly.
going up in these pictures, it is actually requires you to actually understand where the complexity of your company, of your organization coming from, and then work slowly together with managers and your engineers, with everybody, slowly, piece by piece, minimize that complexity and essentially descale, simplify your organization. You'll never become as simple and easy as that maybe startup we had on the picture 10 slides ago. But the direction is nice because essentially you can either add complexity, unnecessary complexity, or you can do something systemic. And that's why octopology, just we believe, is a nice way how to at least visualize that. Okay, to finish up, octopologies as a language, and I know the guys, we're preparing for you now some activities. Um, to do with this map. First of all, there are these two dimensions: the team or skill dimension, or whatever you want to see it, the scope or the product dimension, horizontal and vertical. And of course, you can think of many more dimensions like leadership style, I don't know, business involvement. But we believe these two dimensions are already giving quite a good picture of, trying to find and map your transformational journey. So we're trying to keep it as simple as possible. Secondly, well, once you understand the map and you kind of can feel what's in every box, then you can map your journey, as we say, and this becomes a fantastic tool. Like almost on weekly basis, somebody message us and say, "Hey, I've just used your topologies at a workshop, and now we have a better clarity where we are and what we're actually doing in this agile, in quotes, a transformation. We actually understand that we are aiming to create this B3 team of teams in one part of the company just to see how this works, and other teams, there will be A2, A3 teams, so we're actually doing two different changes.
Please note that this line that we've drawn here is not a mandatory trajectory or transformation path. You can go from any box to any other box. It's just the more boxes or lines you cross, actually, the more difficult it will be, because there will be a deeper change. But you could go in a straight line from Y1 oriented groups to B3 if you want. But maybe it's good to have a stepping stone in between, and to try to first move a couple of groups towards maybe from Y1 to A2. Not sure. So these are just options that you can explore now using the map.
Yeah, sorry. My experience was that, well, you can go from anywhere on the map to B2, B3-ish with about 50 people. So if you are able to find part of your company, or maybe it's a whole big company of 50 people, developers, testers, analysts, UX people, some business stakeholders, if it's about 50, 60 people in one go, you can go from any number of low-level archetypes to this high-level archetype. It will take you probably around 90 days, 3 months to prepare this change. It will take then probably around half a year to stabilize this change. And after these 50 people are happy, you can work with another group of 50 people to actually either merge them or create another B2, B3 level organizational unit. But it is possible. You don't need to jump boxes, like Roland says. And what you typically don't need to do, you don't work on individual teams. No. In this approach, you take all these teams that are kind of responsible for this puzzle. You take all these teams, and then you kind of upgrade them together as a holistic ecosystem. Yes.
So you consider the ecosystem, and you decide which parts need to move along. Right. And the tip that you got today is first solve your reciprocal dependencies properly, and then you'll be much faster already.
Yes, and you can do many other wonderful things with topologies, but we'd like you to discover that by actually doing this. And if you like these ideas, well, what we've been discussing today is already a part of our video course that we are developing. This is module 3, chapter 3 on dependencies, and you are already learning with us. We currently are very busy this month recording this video course with 5 chapters. Maybe we said it'll be 3 hours of videos, but I think it will be actually much more than that, Roland. So if you like to continue on that journey, there's a QR code, promo code, or you can ask the guys who are organizing the meetup for you. We'll be happy to see you learning with us.
Yes.
Essentially, we also plan to do a face-to-face class somewhere later this year in Oslo.
Physical 2-day training.
Physical class, right? But for now, this is what we are offering. Thank you so much. If there's a chance to hear some questions and to answer without making your beer become too warm.
All right. How do you define the different vertical levels? Product part, feature, and so on.
Yeah, that's a very common problem. It looks a bit arbitrary, but actually it should not be, because the highest level, the C level, should be how the customer perceives your product. It's basically the customer need. So if you are considering the level of, let's say, one team, then you'd have to look at, what does this team do? What is the input for this team? And is this really work that directly, that is at the level of the customer need? If not, then, it's probably lower. It might be tasks or features. But everything is relative. I mean, if you would have a very technical team working on a technical product, maybe I don't know, they spin up servers for SaaS products, then although the one team can be busy doing very technical work, that can still be very close to the customer need that company is fulfilling. On the other hand, if it's a web shop or some customer need being like a bank, and if you would then consider a team that would do very technical stuff, like maybe doing things with AWS servers, then that would be really farther away from the customer needs, so it would be lower on the map. It would be probably more like a Y kind of team. So it's all relative. It all depends.
Yeah, so essentially these white teams, the task focus, I'm not sure which color I picked not to confuse you even more. That's like, actually, if you're at this level, you don't speak a customer language. You do something customer will not even understand. So that's why we call it a task. The next level, and of course it's a little bit like arbitrary. Maybe we could have come up with like 20 different levels, but we try to keep it simple, and maybe you find you're in between, or you're in the beginning of a B level in a reality. But to give a very clear to give a very clear picture, I don't want a safe picture, no. Miro, stop playing this with me. Something's wrong with Miro. The next level is the first level which customers actually understand and see. So below this line is like, this is like a sea level, like underwater, Y level, underwater. You don't know what customers want. You cannot talk with them. Customers don't understand what you're doing. You're doing something, some database migrations.
You haven't got a clue why you're doing it.
Yeah.
You just know that you need to do something.
At the A level, that's the first level where you already kind of understand the customers, and this is where you start talking user stories, and you can have customer facing items, PBIs items in your backlog. But typically they will be quite small, quite atomic. It will be, I don't know, like doing some specific feature for the customer.
You were giving the example of the search or the shopping basket.
Search, right? Yeah. And but typically it's not covering the whole customer journey. So it may be a payment feature, super important and super visible, super also understandable by the customer, but the customers actually interested in the whole experience of finding the products, putting them in a basket, picking different payment methods, and actually then paying and then getting the item, etc., etc. So higher level, and we spent quite some time trying to understand how to name them properly, and we call them just product part to be really generic, but you can call them, this are some customer journeys, some kind of a holistic things customers understand, or maybe some kind of a business objectives which span multiple teams, like increasing, I don't know, decreasing churn rate from your customers in a product, increasing whatever, right, of retention, maybe exploring some new market where customers have completely different needs. And why we have these three distinctive levels? Because, well, a lot of teams will clearly say we are either here or here or here. It's super easy for a team or for anybody in the company to clearly determine this level. And teams at the A level, they are still dependent, as we discussed, on these bigger items. That's why we would like really to separate between A and B. So for us, a very important gap or jump is here. That's what we all need to kind of start working on, as we said, to create these newer archetypes where teams will work together to understand those bigger concerns at the higher level. And this is like, you can say everything you have, or the holistic level. It's not just one set of customer journeys, it's the whole business model with the whole sub products or products you have. And of course you can say, well, but there's something also higher, and maybe solving customer problem, or maybe ecosystem or different companies working together. So these levels are kind of flexible, and we want them, we want you to put some meaning into that. Right? But essentially you can clearly determine either your teams are there, and there, and from there drive a discussion where you would like them to be in the future.
But the essential thing is that don't really ask the teams, but think from a customer perspective, outside in.
Yeah, we just had a talk with somebody who asked us to map their teams, and he was saying, well, our teams are at a B level because these teams work on the part of a product that can be sold separately from other parts. So from that logic, yes, it's not a feature, it's something broader, something that customers see holistic value in. Yeah. But then we started to ask, so what this part is, is there anything bigger this part is a part of? And yes, there was something bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and we actually determined 5 different levels, and his teams were working on just of the lowest level. And it doesn't really matter if you say it's A or beginning of B, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that they understand, okay, there are also these bigger levels, and do we want the teams also to learn them? Do we want teams to switch, have an ability to switch between the parts?
Yeah, it's about wanting. I think this is nicely put. It's options. How far do you want to stretch going upward? How far do you want to, how much, what is the holistic level of the product that you are willing to take into consideration?
And the very key, and I'm finishing, the very key distinguishing factor between A level and the B level is that at A level, the teams will own some features and they will have hard times being able to switch to work on something else. Like if their search backlog is empty, which will never happen in a real company because they will have a search corner to put more stuff in search backlog. But if that search backlog runs dry, ideally they would say, hey, we're done with search, now we would like to work on payment. But this never happens in real life because they will be always working on search. If they are a B level set of teams, they will not have a search backlog and a payment backlog. They'll say, hey, this is the shared work. Yes, we have some work in search, and maybe this team would like to do this because they have some experience. But when search is done, well, we all need to now share this other work. And I'm sorry, these are payments. You'll need to learn what that. So it's not about just how people see what they're working on. It's also how freely they can change the topics. How freely are they to learn different topics. So this is exactly going to the topic of adaptivity, because now if you have these teams which can easily share topics, you can be super adaptive because you can say, hey, we stop this and we start this, and all the teams will be able to learn this new idea.
Yeah, please note the title on top of the last vertical. It says multi-learning unit. So where we have multi-skill teams, right, we move towards multi-learning unit, which is exactly what Alexei was saying. People are learning new stuff all the time. I think that's it.